Welcome everyone. Welcome back to my series of videos. Today, my guest is Jo Davis. She's an intuitive coach. She's an author and a speaker, and she's the founder of Lift a Sister Up, the Facebook page that has about 152,000 followers at the moment. So what she does basically, she teaches women how to tap into their intuition. Women and men, because I also learned from her, but she, uh, yeah. So it's specifically for women, that want to understand and 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 take advantage, of this natural gift that we all have, which is called our intuition. Jo is going to be she's going to explain more about it. She's a successful coach. She has a lot of clients, and I will advise you, to follow her page right now and follow her. So, Jo, you're welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm great. I do have a handful of male clients. Not that many though, because you can imagine it's not a big thing for men to be like, I want to tap into my intuition, unless they've had a series of awful relationships or dating drama or issues connecting with their intuition. They typically don't find me very easily. So yeah, most of my clients are women. Interesting, isn't that?
Oh yeah. I've also noticed it too. Most of the people that are interested in spiritual work and in emotional work are women. Most of my followers too are women, and
Mm-hmm.
I also know other men that also run some kind of pages and groups, and most of their following are women. So seems like the men are a bit busy, bored or something.
Maybe
So
they're all on the dating websites, or I don't know, workaholics. I don't know. It's just a little different.
yeah,
It's
no,
interesting.
that's the program of the world. We've been raised to believe that things that have to do with the emotions and everything are feminine, and the male have a different role to play. So that's how it is, and it's playing out. So
Mm.
let's get straight into the topic. Let's hear from you. What is intuition? Like, from your experience, how would you describe it?
So I believe that everyone has intuition. We have it when we're kids, and I think sometimes men and women, boys and girls both have it. I think because of the way we're groomed, a lot of times by our parents, women are allowed to stay a little more tapped into it than men. I think it has to do with how we're raised a little bit. And so women, obviously the divine, the feminine, we're all masculine and feminine. And AJ Bieber teaches on this topic. She's a genius. She's brilliant. Love her, a mutual friend of ours. And, she talks about how we both have this, masculine and feminine parts. So I'm both masculine and feminine. My feminine side is just a little bit more dominant. And I believe that feminine side is where you get the divine downloads and you hear the nudges and whispers and you feel like intuitively you're supposed to take action and do certain things. You pick up the phone, you reach out to a friend, you decide on where you invest your money, you decide on, who to marry, things like that. I think women are a little more tapped into that, just because we've kept that part of ourselves open through the years as we grew up. But again, it's a skill that all of us have. I really, if I was going to sum it up, I would say, and this came to me the other day. I was like, if I was going to simplify this, what would it be? And I think intuition is like the red phone to God. I think it's like we all have this red phone, and we can pick it up whenever we want. We can connect with our higher power, um, our soul work, our angels, our guides, whatever you want to call it. We can connect to that. It's just that if we're not wired in, if we're not finely tuned, if we have too much noise and fear, we're only hearing like every third or fourth word. we're only picking up little bits of information, and it can seem very confusing and not clear. And that's where I think some people feel like, oh, I don't feel like God is listening. I don't feel like I'm connected to my intuition. I don't feel like I'm getting this call from my heart on what I'm supposed to do next. And I always say that's typically because we're noisy. And it's typically because we have a lot of space in our heart filled with stories. You know, all these stories of our childhood, stories of our parents, stories of our ex, stories of our family. And if we're all clogged up inside, there's only so much space. And until you sort of let loose and release those stories and forgive and move past things, it's really hard to hear those nudges and whispers and that red phone, because I don't think any of us are alone. I think there's always something energetically going on around us, you know, that the universe, that God wants us to be happy and successful and be in abundance and have peace and joy and remarkable friendships and relationships in our life. But, you know, we get really bent on it looking a certain way or feeling a certain way or being our way. And we hold on to that idea. And when we hold on to all that stuff, it doesn't allow room for the intuitive nudges and whispers and guidance that we're meant to receive. But yeah, it's like a red phone to God. That's how I look at it.
Okay, yeah, so it's basically the voice of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned something at the end there about us trying to hold on to our own desires or something. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, how do we differentiate between what we want, like what our mind wants, and what the real voice within our hearts is telling us to do?
That's a hard one, right? Because we're like, what choice do we make? What direction do we go? And I think when we don't have quiet in here and we don't have quiet in our heart, which is just why I love meditation, which is a whole other challenge on its own. But I try to really simplify it when I'm teaching students and clients, that every single thing we do, we can really simplify it. Everything we say, everything we feel, everything we see, every conversation we have, every decision we make, as well as everything coming into our field, all the people coming to us, calling us, texting us, opportunities showing up when the phone rings, everything coming to us from other souls, from other people in our life, it only comes from one of two places, period: love or fear. And we can really simplify how we interact with the world by sitting in a space and going, okay, I'm making this decision. Am I making this decision from a place of trust and faith? Am I feeling like in my body, does my body feel like tight and closed off and afraid? Or do I feel excited and open and, just excited about this new adventure or this decision? Do I feel safe? And if we can simplify it to everything that people do interacting with us is from love or fear, and everything we're saying and doing is from love or fear, then as things interact with us, we can also be more compassionate and less judgmental of others, because we can sit and go, oh, they're angry. Well, and they're coming at me with this angry voice. And in our mind, we can go, oh, they're afraid. That's not love. I mean, that's definitely fear. I'm feeling my chest get tight. I'm like, ooh, coiling back. And we can say, oh, they're coming at us from a place of fear. And then we're no longer also attached to their interaction. So we're able to think more clearly. We're able to quiet our mind a little bit and go, oh, how they're acting has nothing to do with me. They're afraid. They're afraid they're not going to be able to pay a bill. They're afraid they're not going to have enough. They're afraid someone thinks something bad about them. They're afraid they're not going to have a project completed and the boss is going to fire them. So if we can gauge everything around us and everything we do, simplify it and say it's one of those two places that we're showing up, love or fear, it really does bring a little bit of clarity to that intuition and holding our space and honoring our space and not being so reactive. And if we're not in fear and we're able to have love and compassion and no judgment for another person, even if they're acting like a fool, even if they're acting crazy, we're like, oh, they're hurting, they're struggling, they're in fear, then we're able to digest information, make decisions that are a little more clear and a little more authentic, and not be getting sucked into that reactive space with them, which
Yeah,
means we also aren't losing power. We're in control of our space.
beautiful. So you run a course for people that want to learn how to tap into their intuition. I think we should. Can we go over the course? Like, are there steps that people need to take,
Mhm.
or are there stages that we have to go through to get to where we want to be?
Mhm.
And what are those steps? What's the first step? Can you like take us through?
You know, it's interesting. And Uchenna, you and I have both known a lot of people that have been through some really hard life experiences. And some of those people come out the other side and they're authors and speakers and writers and coaches. I mean, look at Barbara Veracruz. I mean, diagnosed with 4-stage skin cancer, and she's completely changing the world with her teachings and her love and her writing and holding space for others. Whereas someone else could have been through that same experience and come out the other side just a mean, angry person, struggling financially, struggling with relationships. So, what's the difference between those two people? When I started really diving into that, what I realized was the difference between those two people. And you and I know lots of people that have been through hard stuff and risen above, and lots of people that have been through hard stuff that didn't rise. It didn't bring their soul to a peaceful place. And the difference, I believe, is their perspective of who they are in relationship to the world around them. So if I'm approaching a season of my life and it's a life or death situation, and I have faith, and I recognize that I'm a co-creator of my life, and I'm entertaining this possibility, this idea that I was a co-creator of my life before I was ever born, and all these challenges showing up for me, and people showing up in my life, and these archetypes, and some people are awful and some people are amazing, and they're all showing up. If I recognize that maybe I was a co-creator in inviting all these souls into my life, and it was a part of the plan before I was ever born, and I was like arm in arm with God or my higher power, my angels, whatever, and we're coming up with the plan for my life based on what I want to learn this lifetime. That idea of being powerful and connected to the big plan and not being alone completely changes a person's perspective on how they handle pain and challenges showing up in their life. Because the people that have risen above are people that had faith. People that have risen above are people that are like, I'm powerful. I'm not alone. I feel connected to something else. And it's not about religion. It's about this energetic experience where we recognize something else is going on. There's a bigger plan. And I can't put my finger on it, but I don't feel like I'm alone. So in my coursework, that's what I start out teaching, is this meditation of co-creation, where, you know, just entertaining this idea that what if we're above the clouds, and what if we're planning our life arm in arm with God, arm in arm with our soul or a higher power or our dead great grandmother. It doesn't really matter. You're not alone. You're connected to something else that's got your back. Then when we look back at our life and we look back at our parents, we can look at our parents with love, that they didn't know what they were doing, but that we picked them to help us grow into who our soul's meant to be in this lifetime. So that's the starting point of the coursework. And then we dive into archetypes. We dive into all these people showing up in our life that are a counter opposite to us in the archetype wheel. You know, they're a ruler archetype and we're a caregiver archetype, and they're showing up to push our buttons to help us find our voice. Or, you know, just how we're looking at the dynamics of the people showing up in our life. It helps us examine our responsibility, our accountability. It helps us examine what part of this whole journey belongs to us, which is a big, huge responsibility. And yet we don't ever feel alone in it. So that's just kind of the early parts going through the coursework. And then, of course, we tap into things we loved as a kid that we forgot, because a lot of people in my course are in their 40s and 50s, and they have these corporate jobs and they're miserable, and they forgot they loved to paint. They forgot they loved to write. They forgot they always wanted to make jewelry, or be a park ranger. I mean, these crazy revelations come up in this coursework. And then we wrap it up with, really stepping into a place of releasing attachment, where we're not making demands of God, we're not making demands of the universe, we're not making demands of people in our life, that we're releasing all expectations of everything and stepping into this space of openness and receiving and trust. And, people come out of this coursework completely transformed. You can't unknow this stuff. When you have a conversation with someone and they're like, it's like they can't hardly digest what you're telling them, because they recognize the wisdom that you're gifting them is completely, the opposite of what they ever believed. And they're going to walk away from that conversation completely changed because of 2 or 3 sentences you shared with them, and you see it on their face. So, it's our words have power, and the teachings that we show up with and our soul work have power with people. And that's why I love your writing, because people will read something you wrote and go, I've been trying to say this my whole life, and Uchenna just said it. If I could formulate those words. So I think in both of our work, it's just a beautiful thing when you're able to gift someone with a whole different way of looking at the world. So healing.
Yeah. You know what? There's something I just realized from the stages you just mentioned and the steps. I think I went through almost like all of them in the same kind of sequence. But
wow.
I wasn't guided, but it took me a very long time.
You might have been guided,
Yeah, so sorry, I wasn't like guided by any human being or that, like it was divine in a way. So yeah, it started for me, from my own troubles. I just had a lot of problems. I wasn't on my right path. I was running away from my calling, basically. If I had to be honest, I felt an urge. I always knew I was different. I was intuitive. I just couldn't fit into what my age mates and everybody was doing. It just felt different for me, and so I tried to fit in, and that was what caused most of my problems. And at the end, I just had to realize that when things got very bad, I could feel that death was coming close to me, and and something inside of me, told me, well, not told me. I realized, that I haven't done what I came here to do, and that was what inspired me, to get up from the destructive path that I was on. I had lost everything I'd worked for, lost all my friends, lost everything at the age of 35, I think. So everything I had built up, disappeared. And I was alone. And I could have easily capitulated and, gone the wrong path. But something told me that it was possible, to actually build it up all again, to start from scratch again. But this time, actually following my calling and not being afraid to express who I am. Because I was afraid before. I don't know, I just felt ashamed. I just felt that I didn't know that what I had was a gift. Because it wasn't relevant to the people around me. Most people just didn't understand what I was talking about. So I felt it was something bad, like I don't know how to put it. So I felt it was negative. It was when I joined the Royal Society, when I saw Brian McGill's writing. I was like, wow, I can write this kind of, like, because I had been writing it, for a long time on my own. Nobody reads it. So when I saw his writing, I was like, wow, this is exactly what I've been writing over the years. So I followed him and joined the Royal Society. That was the same time. That was how I met you and all the other people that we met. That was 2015 or 16, I can't remember again. Yeah, so I've been following my own voice from there. And yeah, so that was the start. I just knew that there was something And according to Wayne Dyer, nobody should die with their music still in them. And I felt it at that time that I just knew that I hadn't done what I came here to do. And it would be a shame if I just left this world without doing what I know I should have done. And that was the realization. That was how I got up again, had to go back to school, start all over again, start building, but I'm building it differently. And yeah, that was the first stage, And yeah, so you mentioned something like that realization, just knowing within yourself that you're powerful and that you're not alone, and that you can actually be who you want to be. Most of us are obscured, like the voice within us is obscured, is mixed up with other voices, other people's voices, what other people have told us that we are over the years. It gets muddled up, and we don't, and it's difficult, to separate it if you don't. I also believe in taking time alone and getting to listen to your own voice without hearing all the other conditioned voices that are around you.
Right,
Yeah, so
right.
yeah, that gives clarity, because I had to go out, like I had to just stay. I had to separate myself, from where I was before, physically and everything. Before and it took me like 1 or 2 years before I could actually start hearing my voice again, like, and to start giving power to that voice. Yeah, and people always show up in your lives. Like you said, the second stage you mentioned, is that people come to trigger us, and some other people also come as guides to lift us, when we're down. And right now, it's very easy, to just see and to feel people's energy. For me, it's very easy. It doesn't even take me it takes me like a minute, so just to feel someone's energy when they come when I come in close contact with them. And so I feel I've honed that skill a little bit, but yeah, it's really interesting. So how your clients that come to you, what usually where do they start from? What states do they come in from? Is it from? Are they like just normal people, or?
Well, they're from all over the world. They're all referrals, so I don't do any advertising, which has been such a blessing that people send me their friends, their family. They're from all different backgrounds, but the one thing they have in common, Uchenna, and this is so interesting because you said this, every single one of them says to me something to the effect of, I feel like I was dropped off here from like another planet. Like I feel like my whole life I haven't fit in. I felt different from my family, my friends. I felt like I've tried to be what I need to be to fit in with all of them, but I've always felt different. I've always felt like something else is going on, like behind the veils. Like I've always felt like I have these interesting gifts, and I'm just not like people around me. And I think to some degree, we all have felt that, especially in our teens. We just feel so different and we're going through stuff. But when you're 30, 40, and 50 and you still have that feeling, number one, it means you don't have your tribe. It means you haven't met your tribe, right? But number two, it also means that there's something in you. There's a flicker, like a little flame. And if you can just connect with the right people that want to love on you and cheerlead you and guide you intuitively and from a real clean space, they can help fan that flame. It's like when we were talking the other day about your writing, and I was like, I mean, your writing is phenomenal. Like, when you're having an off day as a writer, all you need is one or two people to just remind you that you're an amazing writer and kind of fan that flame. But that's how it is with these, clients. It's just like they just have never felt really safe in their own skin. And I have a theory, obviously Dr. Shafali teaches this. There's lots of people out there. I believe Eckhart Tolle teaches this. where they talk about these amazing spiritual thought leaders, world-renowned, brilliant souls, and they talk about, you know, when we grow up in a family where we're like the black sheep, or we're sort of misunderstood, or we feel like they don't get us, it's this gift, and we don't realize it's a gift growing up until we're older and we realize, oh, we always felt different because our soul was screaming, you know, these aren't really your people. You got to be you, who you are, and then attract people like you that are going to fan your flame, and they're going to encourage you and love you and hold space for you because they feel different too. And I'm sorry, the most interesting, this is why I adore you. I'm like, you know, the most interesting people I know have always felt that way. Like this unsettling, like something else is going on, and there's a part of me I need to wake up or pay attention to, and I don't quite fit in. And it's good. It's a blessing when you don't quite fit in with the mainstream, you know, everyday people, because you're in this awakening space where your soul is like, come on, pay attention. Pay attention. Those aren't your people. That's why it's uncomfortable. You know, these people over here want to love on you and see you succeed and believe in you and want to cheer you on. And they're weird too, because they're awesome, because they're operating from this high frequency that just lights you up. And I mean, who doesn't want more of that? So it's a very common theme.
Yeah, I think we're all different, and our journeys are different, really. Not everyone is going to come to that realization, and maybe not everybody. Yeah, maybe not everybody is going to be interested in it. But for me, is what brings me calm. Is what keeps me going, what makes me happy. I'm just doing what makes my spirit joyful. And yeah, that's how I know I'm following the right path. So every decision I make, every choice I make, you know, like you said, has to do with either love or fear. And inside love also comes courage. We also need to be courageous, because some of those decisions, you know, are not the easy ones. The easy ones are usually the ones that come from fear, the ones that keep you trapped in your comfort zone. So it takes courage to actually love yourself. You know, it's not as simple, you know, as it sounds. It takes courage to drop your, let's say, your old friends or associations or people you know that are holding you back or down. People that have kind of negative influence on you. It's difficult to drop those ones. It's difficult to drop, how do I put it, your family members.
I call it
who are
fire
toxic
them.
or something.
Like you're fired.
Yeah, but
You're
like, you know,
fired.
their cousins, brothers, sisters, whatever, you know, and
yeah,
you just have to make some hard decisions. You could even be your parents, that are the ones that are toxic, and that's
it takes courage to be
it takes courage
disliked.
to do that, to cut people off. It takes courage to let go of expectations of people, because that's how we live. Like, you know, we always we expect somebody to do something in return. If we send a message to somebody, we expect the person to reply immediately.
Yeah, and then we're offended when
and
they
then we're
don't.
offended when they don't,
Which
or
is
when they
so
refuse to do
ridiculous.
something. Yeah, yeah. So we have there's so many triggers, and expectations is one of the, how do I put it? Yeah, one of the worst triggers that we have in life. And we do it unknowingly. We don't even know that is the problem, because it's so subtle. It's so, you know, I deal with it every day. I'm married, so I always expect my wife to do something, you know. and
the joke's on you.
Yeah, it jokes on me. Whenever, you know, when I come back to myself, I'll be like, nah, I don't have to expect her to do that. You know, yeah. So
Right.
yeah, it's something we need to work on daily. every day. And I don't know, I also expect things of myself. Maybe I shouldn't, be so hard on myself too. So what do you have to say about letting go of expectations?
I really believe that there's a level of integrity that comes, and the universe is listening when we make promises to ourselves and we keep them. Because I work with a lot of clients who are struggling to find like their tribe. They're the other women that are like-minded and great friendships and relationships and this space of acceptance with these people. And I always tell people, one of the issues I see when we don't connect with our people is the universe is sending us people that aren't really good for us. And the reason I think the universe does that, or God, or whatever you want to call it, is because we can't expect, and there's the word expect, right? When we keep promises to ourselves and walk with a level of courage and honesty and integrity and self-love, we're bursting at the seams. We're bursting in that love space and that acceptance of things as they are, and not being perfectionists and not being hard on ourselves. When we put that love out in the world, we're going to see that come back to us. And it's not that we have to expect it. It's just the way the universe works, because everything's a mirror to us and we're drawing in everything to us that's a mirror to us. So when we talk about not being attached and letting go, I think of the word grace, having grace for ourselves and doing our best to be in a space of integrity and keep the promises we make to ourselves. And I'm talking about things like, you know, this is sacred space and nothing shall enter this sacred space that doesn't serve my highest good. So that means I'm going to eat well, I'm going to sleep well, I'm not going to maintain, toxic friendships or family relationships that are toxic. I'm going to honor this sacred space and be in a space of integrity. And then the universe naturally over time, effortlessly, it just sort of is this thing that happens and we don't have to be attached to it. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen. When we're working on our stuff, the universe will send us good things. Things become a little bit effortless. I mean, you met your wife when you were like, you kind of threw up your hands and you were like, yeah, I want love. But I'm getting the fact that it may not look exactly like what I want it to, but I'm in gratitude for it as if it's already happened. And I'm going to work on me. I'm going to work on my junk. And then the universe will send me love, because I'm going to learn how to love myself first. It wasn't an attachment thing. It was just to do the work thing. So when I think of attachment, I think of, if we cannot need to be attached to anything around us and it's sort of impersonal, and we just focus on staying in our own lane, honoring our body, honoring our headspace, honoring our heart, honoring our soul, honoring our purpose on why we're on this planet. Like, your purpose is to write. I'm going to say this like 10 times, right? Your purpose is to write because you're such a phenomenal writer. If you're honoring that, everything else will handle itself, because that's how spirit works. And that's what I have to say about attachment. I think when we let it all go and we just do what we're supposed to do, that's when the magic starts happening. The right people show up, the right opportunities. You get someone randomly sending you a message, are you writing? Cheering you on. Like, the connections all start to work themselves out, because now we're not demanding anything from anyone, including God, including the universe, including our loved ones. We just fulfill the promises we keep to ourselves. And in turn, we were able to show up for other people from a very clean, authentic, loving, raw, real, gritty, kind place. And that changes everything.
Yeah. There's one final thing I want us to discuss before we go. You mentioned something about the universe or God sending us people to trigger us. What do I use for it?
Mm-hmm.
Sending us people that are not that will teach us life lessons. Difficult people that will teach us lessons. I've had my own fair share of them. At the time, I didn't know that was what was happening, but I just kept attracting them, and they would just come and destroy. They will come and destroy my life for me. And yeah, it took me a long time to understand the lessons that they were trying to teach me. To be strong, to be independent, to follow my own voice, to follow my own intuition. But that was after the fact. So I don't know if you can expand on that. Why do you think it happens? I don't know if it happens to everybody. Did it happen to you?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it's important to not overthink things, but be mindful of patterns. And people that say things like, I don't have any of these people in my life, but I hear things, you overhear a conversation in the grocery store or whatever, social media, whatever, and someone will say, oh my gosh, I'm surrounded by drama. And I always giggle because I go, do they know that they're surrounded by drama because they are drama? like they're attracting it. So sometimes I think if we're not in complete alignment with our soul's purpose, the universe or God will send us like tricksters to push our buttons so that we're rattled and we're uncomfortable because we're not quite on the path yet. And those tricksters are showing up to make us just miserable enough to put our foot down and be like, okay, I'm going to do what I know is right. I'm going to do what I know is right for me. I'm going to be real and I'm going to be me. And I'm going to do the thing I know I'm meant to do. And I've got to stop being distracted by all these people, because all these people equal pain, because they're all lessons and they're all a hot mess. So I think, and sometimes people will even say like they start to get on their path and then it gets really crazy and really awful people are showing up. And that's another lesson, because that's like, okay, the universe is saying, are you really serious about it? Are you really serious about it this time, Uchenna? Are you just playing? Are you just playing in that space? Or are you really serious? And so the universe sends you more mess to be like, I'm serious. I'm really doing this thing. This is my purpose. I'm not giving up. It's like kids running around the house. You got kids running around the house as a distraction from your writing. And the universe is going, are you really serious? Are you really serious? Because we're going to send you all these distractions to see if you really love writing and you really love it enough to do what you need to do in the chaos. So I think we get tricksters. I think we get tested. I think sometimes too, in the beginning of this process of becoming your soul's purpose, of stepping into this space of fluidity and this magical flowing space where things, serendipitous just happen all the time and the right people show up. And I think when you start down that path, it's a little scary and it's a little raw. And it's a little scary because it's new and you're leaving all these old friendships, right? And you're leaving family and you're stepping into this path that's authentically you. It's your path, unplugged from all those energies. And it can feel a little lonely. I have a lot of women clients who will say, I have these friends and I don't even want to be around them anymore. They're complaining and they're this and they're in this low frequency, and it's uncomfortable for me to now be in their presence because they're operating from this high frequency. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to get uncomfortable. And there's going to be a moment of loneliness and a moment of very quiet where you got to look around. And it's a beautiful thing, because in that moment you go, okay, I don't have anything to lose. I've left all my friends because they weren't serving my highest good. They weren't good for my healing and my heart and my journey and my soul's purpose. And so now I can really just be me, because who the hell cares? It's just me. So it's a gift, but then they'll kind of show up. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? You want to go out? Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, I miss hanging out with people. I miss these friends. And it's like a trick. Are you serious? That's the universe saying, are you really serious about doing this thing and growing your soul's purpose? Are you really serious about being in peace and joy and authentically happy and being the person that you're meant to be on this planet to help change the frequency and the vibration of the world? Are you really ready? Because they keep tricking you. And then eventually they just stop showing up because they're not comfortable in your frequency. It's like bug spray. They're just like, ooh, Uchenna's lit up like a Christmas tree. Look at him in his high vibe. I don't even know how to talk to him anymore. What's going on with him? It's like it saves you from yourself because they're just uncomfortable in your presence. There's people that won't have a conversation with me. They don't know what to do with me. And I'm okay with that. They can just they can move on.
Yeah, they can just move on.
Next.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, thanks for sharing your wisdom with
That's
us.
a lot of information.
Yeah, that's a lot of information. And it just reminds me of what I write about, authenticity. So at the core of being authentic is being able to listen to your own voice, being able to listen to your intuition. Your intuition is your authenticity. That's where you get your guide, that's where you get your direction, where to go. And when you find that, when I found it, I found like I was at peace. I found inner peace. I was able to attract beautiful people around me.
That makes me want to cry. Like I feel that in my heart. Like,
yeah, like really, like I'm serious. I've attracted
really,
really beautiful people that that are patient with me.
and that want to see you succeed and
Yeah, they want to
shine,
see
and they
me
want to like,
succeed and they are patient. You know, like that's one
yeah.
that's one virtue I found. It was difficult to find in the people that I met before I started being authentic to myself. Most of them were impatient. You know, there's a lot of rush going on in the world, and it's difficult to find someone that values that and that knows that, you know, like just building things slowly. Not really slow, like it could be fast, but you know, it's still with grace and ease that we do it. And yeah, it's just been amazing. So can you tell our viewers, you know, where they can find you on?
Yeah, so the easiest way to find me is just if you just go on Facebook and look up, my website's still under construction. It's a hot mess, but we're getting there. But if you go on Facebook and just type in Lift a Sister Up, it should be the very first one at the top. We have like 150 some thousand followers, so it should pop right up at the top for the number of followers. And you're welcome to message me about my course, about my coursework until it's been a great problem to be so busy with clients that it's not like a perfect website that's set up yet. I mean, it's been a nice problem, but it is time to be official. So I'm committing to actually having a website that's functioning and people can connect with me through there. But for now, just message me on Facebook and definitely grab me while you can, because it's getting crazy. Like the world just needs this work. It's in high demand.
Yeah, so so please look for her on Facebook. I'll drop the link to her page under this video so you can go directly to her page. And I highly recommend her course. You've listened to her, you know, you can feel the wisdom that's oozing out of her. So so yeah, we'll wrap it up for the day, and I'll see you guys on another video. Thanks for showing up. All
Thank
right,
you.
bye.